It's Friday, and I just got paid. What's up? What's up? It's Friday. I was about to say it's Wednesday, but it's Friday, man. I hope y'all had a good morning, and I hope the day is getting better for you guys. What y'all got planned this weekend? Look, information video I'm coming at you guys, man. I'm a 90s baby myself, you know what I'm saying? So I grew up off of a lot of legends, you know what I mean? Like on their way out, and some on their way in, like LeBron. But this one, I'm going to highlight Monte Ellis. Monte was a dog. You know what I'm saying? Born in Jackson, Mississippi, October 26, 1985. My boy was drafted in 2005 with the 40th pick overall to Golden State. That second round, 10th pick. Hey, he was a dog, man. Monte Ellis was one of them guys, man. He retired early in 2017 for family reasons, not because of injury. He was just quoted a couple, I want to say about a year or two back in the interview saying that he felt like he still can play. Me personally, I think Monte left a little too early. The tenure and his run with Golden State was beautiful. I really think that trade hurted Monte. On top of other personal problems he was going through, Monte left the lead a lot earlier than what he should have because Monte is just still at the young age of 37 today. In high school, he was a senior from the 2004-2005 season. He went to Lanier High School and averaged 38.4 points a game. Led that team to the state championship that year. Monte was a dog. But without that being, you know what I'm saying, with all that being said, let's get into it, man. Let's check out Monte, man. That's for the ones that don't know who Monte Ellis is. Y'all better get hit right now because Monte was one of them guys. That's it, the
I
video
would put
won't play.
myself in the same category as D Wade. I mean, at the end of the day, the only thing that he have that I don't have is, more wins and 2 championships. But as far as playing on the same level, competing every night, both ends, shoot inside, outside, fast break, transition, Monte Ellis have it all.
Monte was
Monte
a
Ellis have it
dog.
all.
Facts.
Monte Ellis have it all.
Y'all go look at Monte highlights, man. Monte was a dog.
The only way to get the trade started was to let them start talking about Steph Curry. That's like going fishing. You throw some bait out there. A couple of things happen with that. I wanted to switch the deal over to Monte all along, but in order to get a conversation going, we had to do that. There was a time when everybody loved the Warriors. Before they became a dominant powerhouse, they were a mediocre team that was only popular within the Bay Area. Those teams were led by Monte Ellis, an exciting, flashy young player who unfortunately never led the Warriors anywhere. In fact, he's probably remembered for being traded away from Golden State for Andrew Bogut. This trade, while very unpopular with the fans at first, turned out to be the greatest trade Golden State would ever make. It allowed Steph Curry to have the full reins on offense and unleash his ultimate potential. Some say Ellis was holding the team back. It's quite fascinating how the same player who was endeared for years in keeping Golden State afloat was actually the guy they needed to get rid of to become a championship contender. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today we're gonna talk about Monte Ellis, the bridge between the We Believe era and the Steph Curry era. When Ellis came into the NBA, he was one of the last players to come straight out of high school. The 2005 draft was the last year where high school players were eligible to declare for the draft, and Ellis was the 40th overall pick. He was thrown onto a team that didn't really have any sense of direction. They had
You put a young superstar with Jason Richardson, Matt Barnes, and Baron Davis. Hey, don't get me wrong, them 3 players was excellent players. But they wasn't dominant, like, can lead a program or that knew how to, like, really lead a locker room. Them boys was dominant in their game. So you go put Monte with this squad with no bench players, and y'all expected him to do what? They stacked the
had
squad
Jason
for Curry.
Richardson, who was the face of their franchise,
Crazy.
but he has yet to lead the Warriors to the playoffs. They got Baron Davis from a trade a year prior, and at the time, he wasn't seen as a winning player either. You add on a couple of lottery picks in Troy Murphy and Mike Dunleavy Jr., but both of them were not improving as much as they hoped.
Look at they squad.
They had Derek Fisher as well. It was a team full of
Derek Fisher was
misfits.
a dog.
And Ellis, being the 40th overall pick, wasn't expected to do much of anything. In his rookie season, he barely played, averaging 7 points in 18 minutes a game. The following year, however, the 2006-07 season, would be the year the Warriors would make history. Because of an injury to Jason Richardson, Ellis got a lot more minutes, and he took full advantage of this opportunity. He started in 53 games, averaging 16.5 points and 4 assists per game. This was the year that Monte started to develop into the Monte we all know and love. He showed off his flashy dribbling, his insane quickness and speed, his ability to contort his body in midair and make shots at the rim at will. Being from Mississippi, he became known as the Mississippi Bullet. His playstyle and body type was similar to Allen Iverson, and his game reminded a lot of folks of AI in his prime.
Oh, Monte was nasty, man.
Planning to move? Join the 6 million
shit.
families who discovered a
He used to
smarter,
give my
more
Laker boys
flexible way to
problems,
move
man.
with Pods. Save up to
Monte used to give my Lakers problems.
He was light, he was agile, he had the same quickness, although his handles were not as crisp. But at just 21 years old, he was looking really nice. A huge steal for being a 40th pick. The Warriors would make history in the 2007 playoffs. While the 8 seed has defeated the 1 seed before, this was the first time it happened in a 7-game series. Ellis did not play well in his first playoff run, but because he showed so much promise in the regular season, the future was looking bright for the Warriors. They found their franchise player of the future. Unfortunately, little did he know this would be his first and only playoff run in a Warriors jersey. The next few years for Ellis were filled with highs and lows. By his 3rd season, he became the 2nd leading scorer on the team, now averaging over 20 a game. Believe it or not, he used to be a very efficient player. In that season, he shot 53% overall from the field and made 68% of his shots at the rim. That percentage at the rim is really good, especially for a smaller guard. For comparison, James Harden shoots 64% at the rim for his entire career, and in his prime, he was known as one of the best finishers ever.
In the league,
Back in his early days, Ellis used to relentlessly attack the rim.
Hear what they saying, man. This back in the early 2000s. The lead is way different now, and they trying to compare his game to James Harden. James Harden go to the hole and you blow on him, it's a foul. Monte was going to the hole with KG. You had Alonzo Mourning still in his prime. You know what I'm saying? Dikembe, like, nigga, Shaq was still playing. He had real centers down there. You know what I mean? Like, hey, me personally, I think Monte's career was overlooked by a lot of people, man. Monte was fire. It's not his fault the organization didn't go put a team around him like they did with Curry. They put a solid team around Curry. Monte was
rim,
a dog,
and that's
man.
where most of his points came from. He was primarily a shooting guard, but he could play point guard in a pinch. Although his court vision and passing were nothing special, he was not a natural passer. Anyway, despite leading the Warriors to 48 wins in the following season, they still missed the playoffs, cause, you know, it's the West. It was a hyper-competitive conference.
Especially back then.
This is where his career took a turn for the worse. In the summer of 2008, a month before signing a huge contract, Ellis had a severe ankle injury. The doctors found out that he tore a ligament there, and originally Ellis told the team that he got injured while working out, but it was soon discovered that was not the case. He actually got injured because of a moped accident, which was a breach of contract as it's considered a dangerous activity. As a result, the Warriors suspended him for 30 games, and plus you add on the games he missed due to the injury, and it was a very bad, very short season for him. Ellis ended up playing only 25 games, and the Warriors were terrible, winning just 29 games the entire season.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Fast forward a few months later to the 2009 draft. The Warriors would draft the guy who would change the franchise forever. It's funny how the domino effect works. If Ellis never got into that moped accident, he wouldn't have been injured and suspended. If he played the entire season, the Warriors would be too good to have a lottery pick, so they would have never gotten Curry.
They would have never
Oh, the
drafted
domino
that man.
effect never fails to amaze
That
me.
shit crazy, man.
When Curry did get drafted, Ellis, though, he was kind of upset. After the draft, Ellis publicly said that they're not going to win that way. And at the time, it kind of made sense. They were both undersized guards with a score-first mentality. The Warriors' defense was already bad with Ellis in the backcourt, but now you add a young Steph Curry, it certainly didn't help their defense. Anyway, the next 2 seasons saw Ellis change up his game a lot. He started driving to the rim a lot less and started settling for way more jump shots. He was not a great three-point shooter, but he was a good mid-range shooter. The problem is, being a good mid-range shooter is still inefficient compared to other ways to score. From 2009 to 2011, he had the highest scoring seasons of his career. He averaged 25 points a game, but his efficiency was not the same as it was before. Some say it's because of that moped injury that sapped a lot of his explosiveness and quickness. Eventually, in the middle of the 2011-12 season, Ellis would get traded to Milwaukee for Andrew Bogut, a trade that was heavily criticized by Warriors fans everywhere, to the point where they even booed their owner, Joe Lacob, during Chris Mullin's jersey retirement ceremony. That's how much the fans loved Monte. The trade discussions, as I mentioned earlier, were kinda interesting. Initially, the Warriors had Curry in the discussion. They were trying to see what they could get for Curry, but the front office was just fishing. They were using Curry's name to get a foot in the door to start the negotiations, but they would always switch the conversation to Monte Ellis. Ellis was the guy they wanted to trade away. And at this time, the perception of Steph's incredible three-point shooting was not valued in the same way it is today. Apparently, it's been said that the Warriors had a tough decision to make. They were still very hesitant on trading Ellis, but after 6 years of highs and lows, it was time to move on. In those years, they never even tried to build around him seriously. The front office just went through the motions, knowing that Ellis would never lead them to a title regardless, so they were waiting on getting the perfect player in the draft. A few years after getting Curry, in the 20...
What I just say earlier. Yo, I'm an advocate basketball, especially NBA and college. I watch that shit damn near every time it's on. I don't care who team playing. My team is the Lakers. But no matter who playing, I'm going to watch it, especially if it's greatness on the court. I used to love watching Monte play, man. But when I tell you they never tried to put a team around that man, they didn't. And it is crazy to me how they did Monte. Just a lot of athletes got blackballed out of the league, from NFL to NBA to other sports. But it's like, never forget the greatness, man. Never forget, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't. That's why I had to watch this video. I had to see what was going on with Monte, man, because I've been missing Monte. Like, Monte disappeared. And when you younger and you know what I'm saying, living your life, you know what I'm saying, you don't worry about that shit. But now that I'm getting older, I'm just like, what happened to this player? What happened to that player? So I'm going to do videos and see what happened to these players, man. Yo, that right.
2011 draft, they got Klay Thompson, who was a legitimate two-guard, the perfect replacement for Ellis as Thompson could play at both ends, and they needed a bigger guard next to Curry. It was pretty obvious to Ellis at this time that he was gone. I mean, think about it. Why would the Warriors draft 2 guards in the lottery during Ellis's prime? It's obvious they were going to get rid of him. During those years, they only kept him around because he was entertaining and he sold tickets. Fans came to the games to watch Ellis because there was nothing else exciting about the team. It's a shame to say it like this, but Ellis was never going to be a Warrior for life, even though he wanted to be. After getting traded to Milwaukee, he found himself in a similar situation, paired with another undersized score-first guard. And of course, once again, it did not.
They moved my dog from a smaller guard to a small, they moved from a small guard to a smaller guard in Brandon Jennings, bro. And Brandon Jennings was 5'2", but he wasn't the factor that Monte needed to get over that hump in his career. If anything, his career went down, after that trade. Monte kept hooping, but his numbers were nowhere near what they were in Golden State. I mean, he did Monte
Work out. Fast forward a bit, and he had a couple of bounce-back seasons in Dallas, making the playoffs both years and performing really well. Ellis was a huge reason why the Mavs pushed the event.
And then I forgot about that stint, that little run he had in Dallas with the squad. You know what I'm saying? I believe he played with Dirk. Who else was on that squad? Sean Marion, Josh Howard. That squad was stacked. The center was what was the center? I forgot the center, but yeah, the squad was straight. Jason Terry, they were straight. about that squad.
Eventual champion Spurs to 7 games. Even though he was still a great scorer and was now with a better team, he had the same problems as before. It seemed like he never got many calls when driving to the basket. As great of a scorer as he is, he never drew that many fouls, and that hurt his efficiency. In fact, that's probably the biggest knock on his game. He prefers to avoid contact as opposed to seeking it out. His smaller frame plays a role too. He's not strong or sturdy enough to get constantly banged in the paint, so he tries to avoid contact whenever possible. In the twilight years of his career, he spent his last 2 seasons in Indiana, where he was unspectacular and clearly nowhere near his former self. At the age of 31, he was out of the NBA. So how good was Monte Ellis actually? He was very exciting, and for fans who grew up during that era, they all have a soft spot for Monte Ellis. He's also, in my opinion, probably the best player in NBA history to never make an All-Star team. Despite not leading the Warriors anywhere, he brought hope and excitement to a franchise that's been struggling for years.
And sold tickets.
After his ankle surgery from that moped accident,
Sold
he never
tickets.
truly recovered, and his game slowly regressed. At times, he looked uncomfortable driving to the basket, even though this was supposed to be his strongest asset. And during an era where the NBA started to move towards analytics, Ellis, with all his mid-range jumpers and poor three-point shooting, did not adapt. It'll be interesting if he got drafted to the NBA today. I wonder if his game will be completely different, and could he be an actual All-Star level player? Do you think the Warriors still could have won a championship if he was still on that team, instead of trading for Bogut? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.
Yeah, Monte was an interesting player. For the ones that don't know who Monte Ellis was, y'all go look him up. My boy got highlights all over the place. Just look him up. Y'all let me know who I should do next. With that being said, I'm out. Y'all enjoy the rest of this Friday. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Hey, Lord, hey, turn up, bro. The games is stacked tomorrow.